At the hospital, my family mocked me for fainting for attention, then posted photos of their perfect family dinner. Months later, they demanded invitations to my wedding. You think you know who's got your back until the day you don't hear a single person call, "Hey Reddit, this is Heather M. Gill. I'm 32, an operations director at a tech startup that's growing way too fast for its own good. You know how it goes, pressure on, no breaks, 4 hours of sleep, and endless coffee just to keep the wheels turning. My partner Felix, he's the only one who's ever told me I work too hard. Sharp, grounded, and always there, even when I'm running on empty. But family? Well, that's a whole different story. My parents, more into bragging rights than checking in. Ethan, the golden child, takes the applause for things I do quietly. Then there's Uncle Frank, the family patriarch, keeping tabs like I owe him something. Holidays are more about appearances than anything real, and I keep my distance, short conversations, polite nods. But work? That makes sense. Goals, metrics, results. I'm on a 3 week sprint, surviving on coffee and little sleep. Got this huge presentation coming up, the kind that could land a multi-million deal for Redline Tech. Could mean the promotion I've been busting my chops for. But no pressure, right? Felix looks at me and says, "Take a day off. You look like you're about to pass out." I brush it off and lie, like I always do. I'll sleep for a week after this. But the truth, I'm barely holding it together. The morning of the pitch, Felix makes me promise I'll eat breakfast. I lie again. I'll grab something on the way. The conference room is a pressure cooker, investors lining the table like they expect miracles. My slides, flawless. My pitch, rehearsed down to the breath, but halfway in, everything shifts. My vision narrows, my chest tightens, and my heart races like I'm about to explode. I try to push through, answer the questions, fake the energy, but the floor tilts and the words die right in my throat. Darkness takes over. When I come to, there are bright hospital lights and an EMT hovering over me. "You collapsed during the presentation. We're taking you to Street Luke's." I can barely process it. My phone buzzes, calls going unanswered, voicemails left, but no one's picking up. Felix is the first to reach me, hasn't left my side since. My family? Silence. No calls, no texts, nothing. "You're lucky," the doctor says. "Severe exhaustion, dehydration. Keep this up, and next time won't just be a fainting spell." I nod, trapped between relief and despair. That night, I checked my phone. No messages from the people who should have cared most. But then, I see a photo of my parents, Ethan, and Uncle Frank at a fancy restaurant, laughing, celebrating Ethan's big real estate deal. Timestamp? 2 hours after I was admitted. Felix reads over my shoulder and says quietly, "They knew." And that's when it hits me. This isn't just about fainting or exhaustion. It's about who's really in your corner when the lights go out. But here's where things get interesting. So this is how it all came together. I had been living for work, long hours, sleepless nights, caffeine as a constant companion, the kind of job where you're counted on to be the pillar, the one who keeps everything running smoothly. And for years, I did it without question. Felix has been my anchor through it all, steady, calm, always pushing me to slow down. "Take care of yourself," he'd say, watching me sacrifice sleep and sanity for goals that the board kept raising. I'd shrug it off. Slowing down wasn't an option. Not when the Redline Tech was counting on me. My family's role in the background was predictable but painful. My parents always quick to brag about Ethan's achievements, keep up appearances, and act like everything was perfect. They loved the image, the shiny dinners, the success stories, but the actual support that was missing, Ethan, golden boy that he is, got the praise and the cheers. I was just there, quietly doing my part, but never really seen. Uncle Frank, the self-appointed patriarch, acted like he was keeping score. What I owed, what I didn't give, the usual power plays. So holidays with them were short. Appearances mattered more than conversations. I'd keep things brief, survival mode, because I learned early that digging deeper just meant disappointment. Meanwhile, the pressure at work was building. 3 weeks into the most important project of my career, with 4 hours of sleep, I was preparing a pitch that could deliver a multi-million partnership for Redline Tech. This was the kind of win that could mean a promotion finally getting recognized for all the quiet work I did behind the scenes. But even as I pushed harder, Felix was watching closely. He gently urged me to rest, take a night off, catch my breath. "You're going to burn out," he warned. "Please don't." I waved him off with a tired smile. "One more day, then I'll sleep for a week." That night, standing in the kitchen doorway, he said, "Promise me you'll eat breakfast before the meeting." I lied. "I'll grab something on the way." The morning of the presentation, I tried to channel confidence but felt the pressure squeezing tight like a vice around my chest. The conference room was silent, the eyes of a dozen investors fixed on me. My slides were perfect, my pitch rehearsed, but somewhere halfway through, everything flipped. My vision blurred, my breathing got shallow. I could feel the room spinning. I clenched the edge of the table, fighting to keep going. Questions came. I tried to answer, but my mind was a blank. Then the floor tipped beneath me. I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in an ER, hospital lights glaring, an EMT asking if I could hear him. My phone was buzzing with calls. I didn't answer calls from my emergency contacts. But no one picked up. Felix was the first to arrive, and he stayed by my side. My family, nothing. No texts, no calls, no messages. Days later, the doctor confirmed what I already felt deep down: severe exhaustion and dehydration. "Keep this up, and next time it won't just be a fainting spell." I realized then that my relentless drive, my need to be dependable, was pushing me beyond limits my body simply couldn't handle. And the silence from those who should have cared felt like a punch to the gut. That night, curiosity got the better of me. I checked my phone again. No "Are you okay?" texts, no voicemails. Instead, a tagged photo showed up from Lavala, one of the most expensive restaurants in town. It was my family smiling, glasses raised in celebration of Ethan's biggest real estate deal. The timestamp showed the photo was taken 2 hours after I was admitted. Felix read over my shoulder. Then he looked at me and said quietly, "They knew." That was the moment I saw it clearly. This wasn't a misunderstanding or forgetfulness. It was ignoring me on purpose, the silent mockery disguised as absence. And that's when I knew the cracks in my family's perfect image were bigger than I thought. You won't believe what happened next. After the hospital discharge, reality set in harder than any fatigue or ache ever had. The silence from my family was deafening. No calls, no texts, not even a single message from those who should have been the first to check on me. The emptiness was a punch in the gut, but what came next pulled the rug out from under me. That same night, out of a mixture of frustration and curiosity, I opened my phone to check for anything from family. Instead, I found something worse: a tagged post from Lavala, one of the priciest restaurants in the city. There they were, my parents, Ethan, his wife, Uncle Frank raising glasses, smiling in the warm glow of celebration. The caption shouted, "Morris legacy stronger than ever, rejoicing Ethan's biggest real estate deal." And the timestamp, 2 hours after I was admitted, Felix hovered beside me, his expression darkening. "They knew," he said softly. "It wasn't just neglect, it was willful cruelty." Then the messages came through screenshots from Hunter, my cousin. Our family's group chat, the one I had muted months ago, was alive with cruel whispers. "She's being dramatic. Another meltdown. She always bounces back. And worst, this will teach her not to play the victim." I stared at the screen until my hands trembled. Felix read the messages over my shoulder, his face pale. "This isn't neglect, this is cruelty." I wanted to believe they didn't realize how serious it was, that maybe it hadn't sunk in, but Felix wouldn't let me off the hook. "You were unconscious. They didn't even try." Hunter, who I barely spoke to anymore, had stopped chasing their approval years ago. He told me the messages had lit up right after my dad listened to the hospital voicemail. "They knew before appetizers," Hunter said during his visit the next day, carrying 2 coffees as he stood uncertainly on my doorstep. We sat together as he shared how every achievement was belittled and every failure exaggerated in my family. He said, "Seeing them mock you after you collapse, that's evil." I didn't have a response, just a sinking feeling that this cold indifference wasn't accident but choice. Felix joined us, his voice steady. "You don't have to keep them in your life. People like that don't change." Hunter nodded. "I cut contact 5 years ago. Best decision I ever made." I wasn't ready to speak or decide, but something had shifted. After he left, Felix and I sat quietly. I realized that the family I'd built illusions on was never really there for me. That night, I deleted the group chat. It felt like a small but powerful act, stepping away from the people who watched me fall without reaching a hand. Sleep that night was the best I'd had in weeks, not peace but clarity. A week passed without a single word from my family, a silence so palpable it was like they'd agreed I didn't exist. And then everything shifted. Hunter posted screenshots from the family chat alongside the photo of my hospital wristband, exposing the neglect to the world. The post didn't go viral in a flashy way, but spread quietly fast through mutual circles, igniting a reaction. People reached out with apologies, support, and stories of their own toxic families. My inbox overflowed. Even the CEO of my current company sent words of care. At home, Felix scrolled through the furious responses on his phone. People are angry. They should be. For the first time, I didn't have to explain or defend. The truth was out, and it was louder than their silence. But then came the storm, a knock on the door. My family appeared in person, furious, and demanding I take down the post and apologize. I stood firm. Felix stood firm. My grandmother Evelyn arrived last, the voice of reason and fierce defender. She confirmed what I knew. They hadn't shown up. Not once. The confrontation was tense, voices raised, insults thrown, boundaries asserted. Their anger wasn't about what they did, it was that I'd finally exposed it. And with that door slammed behind them, everything changed. The confrontation felt like the peak of an emotional mountain I'd been climbing for years. My father's red face, my mother's tight-lipped stare, Ethan's smug grin, Uncle Frank pacing like a lawyer. They came in full force. "You've humiliated this family," my father shouted before I could say a word. "Humiliated? For screenshots I didn't even post," I said calmly. "Frank accused me of masterminding the public fallout, claiming I'd put Hunter up to it." Felix stepped forward, unwavering. "Everything in those screenshots is real. I read them myself." Frank shot back. "This is family business. Stay out of it." "I am family," Felix said softly, "and I'm not going anywhere." My mother's voice edged closer. "We raised you. We gave you everything, and this is how you repay us?" "You didn't give me everything," I replied. "You didn't even answer the hospital calls." My father scoffed. "We were told you were stable. You were fine." I looked him in the eye. I was unconscious. I woke up alone. "That's abandonment," I said. "Stop acting like a victim." Ethan sneered. "You fainted. People faint. You took the opportunity to make us look like monsters." "That's on you," Felix shot back. "Not her." "Enough," my father bellowed, pounding the table. "You're going to call Hunter and tell him to delete the post. Then you're issuing a public apology today." "I'm not apologizing," I said firmly. "Yes, you are," my mother insisted. "This childish rebellion ends now." I asked, "Privately? You mean silently? Pretending nothing happened to keep up your perfect image?" Frank shook his head. "You're lucky you even have a family." "Lucky? You think constant criticism and being invisible counts?" I laughed bitterly. Ethan smirked. "Maybe if you weren't so weak." Felix snapped. "Weak? She's been holding all of you together." Frank barked. "Don't talk to us like that." Felix answered, "Because you're older, respect is earned, and you haven't earned it." My father pointed a finger. "We are your blood. That means something." "It used to," I said, "but blood means nothing when you treat people like disposable." A heavy silence filled the apartment. Then the door opened. Grandma Evelyn stepped in, cane in hand, sharper than ever. She'd told them firmly she'd called the hospital and found Heather was alone the entire time. She confronted them about calling her dramatic and attention-seeking. Evelyn's words cut through them all. You embarrassed me, not because of a post, but because of who you've become. She turned to me. I'm sorry, Heather. You deserve better. No one responded, just anger and silence. They stormed out, muttering about ungratefulness and burned bridges. The door slammed behind them. For the first time, felt like oxygen. Evelyn stayed, placing her hand on my shoulder. They'll twist this story, she said. But don't let them twist you. He won't, he replied. And that marked the end of something old and the start of the life I was finally ready to live. You won't believe what comes next. The fallout from the family confrontation rippled through every corner of my life. The very next day, things shifted at work. Messages of support poured in from colleagues, past managers, even the CEO reached out. If you need flexibility or time off, she said, take it. Family trauma is real. Those words were balm, but they also reminded me this wasn't just personal, it was public now. The social circles I moved in began whispering. Clients pulled back, old friends kept distance, and even Uncle Frank, once an untouchable figure on charity boards, saw invitations quietly disappear. The Morris family's polished image cracked beneath the weight of truth. But for me, the most profound change was inner. I began to accept what I'd always resisted, that healing wasn't about fixing a broken family, but about building boundaries that protected my peace. Felix stayed my rock every step of the way. Quiet nights on the couch, meals shared with no conversations about drama, just presence and calm, was exactly what I needed to reclaim my strength. Grandma Evelyn's words stayed with me too. They'll try to twist your story, but don't ever let them twist you. Her calm conviction was a lighthouse in the storm, a reminder that in the chaos of family conflict, some bonds endure. Through all of this, I realized that forgiveness wasn't immediate or easy, and sometimes it wasn't even necessary. What mattered most was choosing who deserved a place in my life and surrounding myself with those who showed up when it counted. So that's where I stand now, firm, clearer, and quietly rebuilding a life that's truly mine. It's the first time in a long time I've felt free to be vulnerable and strong all at once. And there's a powerful freedom in that. Looking back, the truth cut deeper than any exhaustion or betrayal. I spent years trying to fit into a family mold that demanded perfection but offered little support. I hung on to hope that blood meant something, that beneath all the silence and cold shoulders, care was waiting to be found. But sometimes care comes in different forms. Felix, Hunter, and even Grandma Evelyn showed me that family isn't only who shares your DNA. It's about who stands by you through the hard days, who holds space for your truth, and who lifts you up without strings attached. My story is just one example of the toxic patterns many endure: neglect disguised as toughness, appearances prioritized over authentic connection, and silence weaponized against those who dare to struggle. To anyone listening who feels invisible or unheard, know this. You deserve a family that sees you, not just the version they want you to be. You deserve kindness, even, especially, when you're at your weakest. Cutting ties isn't easy. The guilt, confusion, and fear can weigh heavily. But sometimes the bravest thing you can do is step away from what's broken and step into a space where you can finally heal. So if you've ever felt alone in a room full of people, or like you're shouting into silence, maybe it's time to rethink who belongs in your story. Build your circle with those who show up when it matters, who listen without judgment, and who celebrate your struggles as much as your successes. Thank you for listening to Heather's story. If it resonated, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. You're never truly alone, and sometimes the strength you need comes from the stories we share. Before you go, don't forget to like, comment, and hit subscribe for more real stories of resilience and self-discovery. And stay tuned, there's a lot more coming that dives deep into the art of choosing yourself when family lets you down. Because sometimes the best family is the one you build with your own two hands. See you in the next video.